What the hell was that? I'm gonna kick your ass and take you right to hell, bitch. I'm gonna kick your ass, Freddy. Hey, welcome back to my channel. Hope everyone's doing well out there. And today we're on to the fourth installment in a Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And this one's called The Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. Now, after the big success of Part 3, Bob Shaye was in a hurry to get the next one rolling to have out the next year. Because this one came out August of '88. So there wasn't a whole lot of time to get things moving. So they were in a mad dash to find a writer to write the script and a director. Now, they did go to Wes Craven once again like they did previously. But Bob Shaye did not like Wes Craven's idea for the film, so he politely said, we're going to go in a different direction, and they did a mad dash to find a writer and a director. Now, Renny Harlin, who directed this film, was just coming off a little horror film called Prison that came out in '87. If you've never seen that, it's a worthwhile watch, definitely. I own it on Blu-ray. Shout Factory has a pretty cool, or Scream Factory has a pretty cool Blu-ray out. If it's still available, I don't know, but that's how I own it, and it's a pretty cool little haunted prison movie. Now, Renny Harlin wasn't there. They were looking for a director, and New Line's thing, especially after the first one, was they were looking for a young director, somebody that would work cheap and can work long hours and bring it in on budget. That was always their goal. So Renny Harlin wasn't their first choice. They didn't really have a choice. They had a hard time finding a director to fit the material. And Renny Harlin didn't have a whole lot of money even after Prison, because Prison wasn't a huge film. It was just like a small little independent movie. And he kept coming into New Line day after day asking if he could direct the film. Finally, Bob Shaye relented and gave him the job, although Bob Shaye, many times during production, wondered if he made a mistake. But after the results of what it did theatrically, he was quite happy. But anyway, so with the director in tow, Renny Harlin, they were trying to find a writer. Well, they found a writer in Brian Helgeland, who they gave 7 days to write a script. And that's insane. So right around Christmas time, he sat down in his father's kitchen and wrote the script for Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. Now, it was revised a little bit, but they were in a hurry because there was a writer's strike looming. So once the writer's strike kicked in, nobody could really touch the script. So once they got into production, they had to make up stuff on the spot. Like, Renny Harlin made up a lot of the dream sequences and a lot of the stuff coming with what Freddy was going to do to these kids. That was all made up during production. It wasn't thought out ahead of time. And Brian Helgeland went on to do, he wrote Man on Fire, which I love that film with Denzel Washington. The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, wrote Mystic River for Clint Eastwood. He wrote and directed Payback with Mel Gibson, which is a really cool little film. If you've never seen that, check that out. So he became a pretty big deal in Hollywood, and he wrote a lot of other films too, LA Confidential, etc., etc. So now, armed with a $6.5 million budget, which up until that point was their biggest budget for a Nightmare on Elm Street film, but when it got released that summer, it got released in August. They didn't start production until February. So they started shooting in February, and it was out in August. Matter of fact, on the documentary, Never Sleep Again, there we go, I'm going to plug that little documentary again. Some of the makeup effects guys were saying they were filming effect shots 2 weeks before the film's release. That's how tight the schedule were on these films. And they had a lot of work to do, considering it was a $6.5 million budget, but with all the effects in the film they had to pull off, that was a tight timeline and a tight budget. But they made it work, because most of the effects still hold up pretty well. This is the first time I've watched this film in over a decade, to be honest. And it looked pretty good in high def, in all honesty. Now, when it came out that August, well, first of all, it's an hour and 33 minutes long, which is right around the sweet spot for these films. And it made a little over $49 million, which was the biggest success of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise until Freddy vs. Jason came along. So, armed with that, Patricia Arquette did not come back for this film. There's multiple reasons why. People say, we'll never know what the truth was. Some of the cast say, that some of the returning cast say it was because New Line didn't want to pay her money. Patricia Arquette says she was busy with other things. Who knows what's true, but she didn't come back. So they hired Tuesday Night to play Kristen in this film. And she seems a little out of place. She also sung some of the songs during this film too. She's definitely not as good as Patricia Arquette. And she seems awkward with the other cast members that came back for this film. Now, Robert Englund was back as Freddy, and this is the first film in this franchise that he got top billing for this film, because at this point, Freddy was the star. Lisa Wilcox came in to play Alice, and she's in this film and the next film we'll talk about next week, The Dream Child, Part 5. And she's good in this film as well. And this film pretty much starts off with, we're reintroduced to the characters that came back from the first film. And we see Tuesday Night or Kristen. It's kind of jarring considering this came out a year later and there's a different actress playing the same role. But, you know, when I was a kid and saw this, it didn't bother me. But as an adult, it kind of is, and watching these so close together, it's kind of jarring to see a different actress in that role. And she's having nightmares, but Freddy's still dead. He's not alive. And she pulls Kincaid and the other, I can't remember the other character's name, into her dreams. And they're like, look, Freddy's dead. He's not alive. And there's a boiler behind him and it's still cold. Well, when you know it, a few days, we're introduced to Alice as well and her brother. Her brother is actually dating Kristen. They're all out in the asylum, and they're all having normal high school kid lives now at this point. They moved on from part 3. But Freddy still looms large over their lives, especially Kristen. Pretty soon, Kincaid gets pulled into his dream, and his dog pisses fire. Yes, I said that right. This is a thing in this film. A dog pisses fire and resurrects Freddy, which is dumb as hell. I remember seeing this when I was a kid, and I was like, hold on, a dog pissing fire is resurrecting Freddy? But yes, that's how it goes down, people. And Kincaid is in the junkyard from the end of the third film, which is a cool set, by the way. This is probably one of my favorite sequences of the film, but unfortunately Kincaid gets killed unceremoniously after Freddy's resurrected. Freddy stabs him in the stomach with his finger knives, and Kincaid's dead. And then the other character, which I'm blanking on the name, I apologize, but he was the one that liked the girls. Him being attracted to women, like all teenage boys, got him in trouble in the third one. Well, it kills him in this one in his bed. Kind of like a callback to the Johnny Depp kill, only it's done a little bit differently. And then Kristen gets killed. They kill off the remaining characters pretty quickly. It's almost like an Alien 3 kind of situation. Only you get to spend a little bit more time with these characters from the third film until they're killed. Kristen pulls Alice into her dreams and gives her power before Freddy kills her by throwing her into this boiler that has water in it and fire. I don't understand how she gets killed in this, but that's the way it goes down in this film. There's a lot of what the F moments in this film. So now Alice is the chosen one by Freddy. What Kristen did was open up Freddy to more kids to kill. Like Alice's brother, she's a guy that likes her. There's this other girl that likes to lift weights who gets killed turning into a cockroach. Yes, you heard me right. But then, like, her brother gets killed in a very cheesy scene, which I recreated for the intro to this film. Not as good, but his death scene was actually supposed to be more elaborate, but they were running out of money and time. So that's why the set kind of looks cheap, and Freddy doesn't even appear in the damn thing, except for his glove. It's really not that great compared to some of the other things they pull off in this film. And basically, once each kid dies, Alice gets their power. And at first, she's kind of like an awkward, quiet girl. And by the end of the film, she's a very confident and strong woman when she goes into the dream world to save her now boyfriend from Freddy and kill Freddy by showing him his image in a mirror, and he dies. Yes, you heard me right. That's another thing in this movie. The way he's resurrected in this film and the way he's dispatched in this film are fucking terrible. I always thought they were, but watching it last night, I was like, holy shit, who came up with this? Well, Renny Harlin came up with the dog pissing. I don't know who came up with the reflection in the mirror, because it takes place in this church. It's well lit. The whole movie's well lit and well shot, and you can definitely see some shots that Renny Harlin used later on in his career, like in movies like Die Hard 2 and Cliffhanger and Deep Blue Sea and Long Kiss Goodnight, which I like all those films. But you can see some of those shots in this film too, just on a lower scale. Lisa Wilcox is good as our main character because she ends up being her main character. Kristen, even though they bring her back, is kind of like a side character, gets killed off in the first 20 minutes of the film. And we're introduced to some other characters. We really don't get to know them as well as we did as the kids in part 3 before they're dispatched. And some of the ways they're dispatched aren't the greatest. This film isn't that gory either. That's the other thing. It's more gross kills, like when the girl turns into a cockroach and he squeezes it when she's stuck in this roach motel, which is a cool effects scene. It just seems odd for a Nightmare on Elm Street entry. It's still pulled off pretty well, and it still holds up. Like I said, even in high def. I watched this last night. Renny Harlin does nice with the directing, but you could definitely tell that they were making a lot of this shit up as they went. Some things come out of nowhere. Another scene that I really like is the movie theater scene where Alice goes to the movies, and when she realizes it's a dream, and all of her popcorn and her soda starts spilling out as she's sitting there in slow motion, and then she ends up hanging off the balcony, getting sucked, and she gets sucked into the screen. It's a really cool effect considering this was '88 when they shot this film, and the budget was still only $6.5 million. So I gotta give them props. They did get inventive, and they did some really cool effect shots and effects work in this film. And there was a ton of good makeup effects artists that worked in this film. Howard Berger from K&B worked on this film. I think Kevin Yeager worked on this film, and a bunch of other guys that you would know their names if you're into the horror genre as well. Honestly, I never liked this film as a kid. A lot of my friends, this was the most popular entry with a lot of my friends when I was younger. I never liked it. I liked the first one, and I liked the third one, and then I liked New Nightmare when that came out. But watching this last night, it didn't annoy me, and I could see the creativity on screen. Like I said, it's the first time I've seen this in over a decade. So I was kind of watching it with fresh eyes. I do remember a lot of it, but it does hold up pretty well. It's entertaining. It's not scary. I don't think any of this movie is scary at all. And some of the kills are cheap, like some of the scenes are stupid with Kristen on the beach and Freddy's glove turns into like a shark fin coming through. It's dumb. Some of that shit's just dumb. And the way the one friend dies in class with the metal hand coming up and grabbing her, and then Freddy sucks all the air out of her and she kind of deflates in class. And then in real life, she has an asthma attack. Some of the stuff doesn't work for me, but I like the creativity behind it. You could really tell that they were trying to come up with some cool things. And I think they had to out of necessity. Again, the script was written in 7 days. There was a writer's strike, so they couldn't bring any more writers in to do any rewrites. So it was up to them to make up stuff on the set. And I think Renny Harlin does a nice job with it. Some of it's cheesy and over the top. Sometimes the tone, even though it is more of like a heightened Nightmare on Elm Street film, the tone's a little bit all over the place too, and it just seems like some scenes just go from scene to scene with no real connective tissue besides characters. Some of it just comes out of left field and doesn't make a whole lot of sense with the story they're trying to tell. And I don't care for the resurrection or the way they dispatch of Freddy. I think they're dumb as hell. But I gotta be honest, I had more fun rewatching this film than I thought I would, considering my thoughts from years ago on it. So I'm going to be a little bit more kinder to this one than I had really originally anticipated. I don't anticipate that happening with 5 and 6, but who knows? Stranger things have freaking happened, right? So I would give, at the end of the day, I would give Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, a 6.5 out of 10. I actually enjoyed it more than I thought. I was entertained by it. I even laughed a few times. And Lisa Wilcox, as good as the main heroine in this film, I can't really complain. She does a nice job. Even though it was definitely a rush production, like I said, they didn't start shooting until February, and this movie was out in August. This is definitely the MTV Nightmare on Elm Street. A lot of quick cuts, a lot of bright lighting. It's definitely, you can tell the MTV was definitely influenced this film, and Renny Harlin even says it in the documentary that it was definitely influenced by MTV and what kids were like at the time. It's definitely a movie of its time. It's definitely stuck in that late 80s time period for sure, which there's nothing wrong with. It's just a little dated in that aspect, but still, I had more fun with this movie than I thought I did. Again, I give this movie a 6.5 out of 10 for A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. What are your thoughts on this sequel? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Let me know where this sequel goes in the franchise, in order of the franchise for you. Do you like this more than 3 or not as good as 3? Do you like this more than 2? Let me know down below. Let me know your thoughts. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share this video. I greatly would appreciate that. This is my last review for the week. I have some family coming in to visit for the weekend, so I'll be back next week with reviews for 5 and 6 in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Until then, I hope you're all doing well out there, and I'll just see you next time. Bye.